Hey guys, in this video, I'll be going over the issue of the separation of church and state. Okay, so let's say you are a leader of a group of around 500 people who are making a settlement in the Amazon. You're also a devout Christian, and as a follower of Jesus, you want to get as many people as you can, including those settlers, to be saved and converted to Christianity. So, as the leader and a Christian, knowing this, should you make laws that would push other settlers to convert to Christianity? So to answer this question, let's look at history and what happened when church and government was merged. In 538 AD, Emperor Justinian united the Byzantine Empire under the Roman Catholic Church. This gave papacy supreme power over the rulers in the empire. By doing this, Emperor Justinian merged church and state. Although it may seem good that the church would have more power because it would have a greater influence over more people, that power would lead to the corruption of both the church and the kingdoms under it. Spain was one of the empires under the papacy. Now, conquistadors were Spanish explorers who went to the Americas in order to discover land, gain wealth, and spread Christianity. However, the way they went doing this didn't reflect the love of God. They were told by the papacy that because the Native Americans weren't Christian, they didn't have any rights. Because of this, the conquistadors enslaved and killed many of the Native Americans. Even the priests that were sent with the explorers ended up forcing the Native Americans to accept the Catholic faith. In Romans 13:10 it says, "Love worketh no ill to his neighbor." What the papacy, conquistadors, and priests were doing was contrary to the Bible. Here, we can see how the power given to the church led to the intolerance of other religions, as well as a misrepresentation of the love of God. When the papacy was eventually overthrown in the French Revolution on 1798, the French revolutionists sought to destroy religion. This was because the church-state system that the papacy had adopted had caused them to misrepresent God. Around 1517, the Protestant Reformation began, and a lot of the people in Europe began to see how many of the papacy's principles weren't biblical. Because these Protestant groups had challenged the supreme power of the papacy, they were persecuted. In order to escape persecution, many of the Protestants moved to America so that they could freely practice their religion. Even though the Protestants who came to America were seeking to gain religious freedom, many of those Protestants didn't grant that freedom to other religions they came in contact with. One of these denominations, the Puritans, were especially intolerant of other religions. They believed that God would punish them if they tolerated other religions. In order to stress this point, one of the colonies had executed 4 Quakers. Now, the Quakers were also Protestant, but the Puritans still didn't tolerate them. They often got into conflicts with the Native Americans, like the conquistadors, and they would usually end up banning from the colonies those who had different religious ideas. This was just like how the papacy tried to suppress them in Europe. So, why were the Puritans who came to America for religious liberty so hostile to other religions? It was because the Puritan colonies had adopted a church-state system. See, one of the requirements to vote in the Puritan colony was to be a member of the Puritan Church. In The Great Controversy, page 292.3, Ellen G. White sums up how the church-state system resulted in intolerance. The regulation was adopted by the colonists that only church members should have a voice in the civil government. A kind of state church was formed, all the people being required to contribute to the support of the clergy and the magistrates being authorized to suppress heresy. Thus, the secular power was in the hands of the church. It was not long before these measures led to the inevitable result, persecution. This requirement of being a church member also led to a lot of people joining the church but not having a change of heart. So once again, we can see how combining church and state led to the corruption of the government and the misrepresentation of the church. So, to answer the question in the beginning of the video, no, you should not make laws that would push people to join Christianity. In 1635, a man by the name of Roger Williams was banished from the Puritan colony Salem because he believed in practicing religious tolerance as well as a separation of church and state. He then established a settlement in Rhode Island. Not only did the settlement separate church and state, but it was also the first settlement in America to legislate the freedom of religion. This legislation was a precursor to the establishment and free exercise clauses of the First Amendment. So let's talk about that. So let's fast forward to around 1789, when America was independent from Britain and the Constitution was in the process of being ratified. By this time, religious tolerance was already common in America because of the First Great Awakening. In the First Great Awakening, it was stressed that in heaven it did not matter what denomination you were part of. It also resulted in many of the denominations splitting to form new churches. Both of these things resulted in greater religious tolerance. By the end of the Revolutionary War, many colonies had separated their church-state systems, and some included religious tolerance in their constitutions. James Madison was tasked with writing the Bill of Rights. This was a document that limited the power of the government by protecting certain rights of the people. The first two rights it addresses have to do with the freedom of religion. It states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The Establishment Clause prevents the government from excessively favoring any religion. So, there cannot be an official religion and there cannot be a church-state system. The Free Exercise Clause prevents the government from persecuting or preventing the free exercise of any religion. Even though most of the founding fathers were Christians themselves, they saw the importance of religious liberty for everyone. In a letter to a Jewish community, George Washington, the first president, assures them that America will protect their religious liberty because they will not allow or assist in persecution. In John 18:36, it says, Jesus answered, My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight so that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now my kingdom is not from here. Throughout Jesus' life, we can see that many people, including the disciples, believed that Jesus would establish a kingdom on earth and destroy the Romans. But as we know, that is not what Jesus intended to do. Jesus intended for his kingdom to transcend beyond the political and national boundaries. That is why we should try to represent God through our actions and deeds, so that people who see us will want to follow God as well. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice day.